2 days from now, the 22nd of November 2022, will be the 70th anniversary of the death of Commandant John Joe O'Reilly. Only 34 years old, he was a man who had accomplished much in his personal life, in his playing career, and in his chosen profession. His death left his young wife Olive with 4 small children. Their profound loss was shared by a wider family at the death of one whom they thought to be almost invincible. What he meant to his teammates and indeed his rivals on the playing field is shown in the testament of people of the calibre of our former Taoiseach, his Cavan teammate John P. Wilson. Many others whose recollections are recorded in the extraordinary publication The Gallant John Joe, Cavan's Millennium Man, written by our own George Cartwright, confirm the respect, admiration and iconic status which was so eloquently captured in the extract from an article from the Anglo-Celt published soon after his death and reproduced in the programme for today. It is, of course, George's book which was and is to me the spark that lit the fire for this project. It is the reason I believe we are here today. In his chosen career as a commandant in our defence forces, John Joe O'Reilly was clearly a man marked out for a glowing professional career. John Wilson, a subsequent Minister for Defence, therefore someone with a fairly informed knowledge of what it would take to be appointed Chief of Staff, expressed the view that had he lived, John Joe O'Reilly would have attained that position. I extend a very warm welcome to Lieutenant Colonel Stephen Morgan, who is representing the Defence Forces here today. His presence is a clear indication of the legacy of John Joe O'Reilly in our Defence Forces. John Joe was commissioned to the Army in 1939 and served throughout the period of the emergency. Those years of the Second World War were a time of great turbulence and danger for our young state. He was part of a new generation of professional soldiers, men set apart from the old rivalries from the Civil War of the previous generation. In 2008, the Defence Forces acknowledged John Joe, naming a new stand at the Defence Forces Training Sports Centre at the Corry in his memory. We are delighted to have a colour party from the Defence Forces here today, together with a group from the Cavan branch of the Organisation of Ex-Service Personnel. Earlier today, they had a service to remember all of those who served in this country's defence forces and those who, for various reasons, fought with the armies of other nations. We thank the ONE for their assistance and indeed their patience, given that in order to accommodate this event, they had to alter their programme a number of times, and I really do sincerely thank them for that. We are honoured with the presence of very many dignitaries. My fellow councillors, Councillor Mary Freeland, the former Lord Mayor of Dublin, a native of Ballyconnell and indeed a member of the extended O'Reilly family, members of the Oireachtas, the Cathaoirleach, and the members of Cavan County Board, and I very much appreciate all of them for their help and their support throughout this. The Very Reverend Martin Hayes, Bishop of Kilmore, representatives of the Ulster Council. We appreciate all of your support throughout this project. Most especially, we are honoured with the presence of so many members of the O'Reilly family who have travelled from far and near for this special occasion. Our guest of honour, Uachtaráin Cumann Lucas Gael Laurus McCarthy, is very welcome back to County Cavan. Just a few short weeks ago, he visited Kingspan Breffni to officially open the Breffni Gallery, a space to showcase all things relating to Cavan GAA. We really appreciate that he is back with us today to unveil this statue. On behalf of the organising committee, I'm extremely grateful to the hundreds of people who have turned out today on what thankfully has turned out not to be a cold, stormy day, and Ian Corrigan will sing that later and do it more justice than I could. The hundreds who have gathered here this morning, or this afternoon, the large numbers who attended the fundraising event in the Helix in DCU, many individuals from throughout our county and around the world, our county board, led by Kieran O'Callaghan, and our clubs, the Cavan associations in Dublin and abroad, the businesses across our county and further afield, have all, through your support, vindicated our decision to come together and bring this statue to fruition. We're also very grateful for the exceptional support of Cavan County Council. My fellow councillors supported this initiative from the start, and officials have been hugely helpful. In the very early stages, a committee of novices received very practical advice on how to go about selecting an artist and commissioning a sculpture of this scale. We really appreciate the expert advice of the Arts Officer Katrina O'Reilly and her colleague Rhonda Tidy. They, together with their colleagues Derry Scanlon, Paul Mulligan and Brendan Jennings, worked with us to select an appropriate public place in our county town to position this fine statue. In recent weeks, Derry, Paul and Brendan and Brian Mulligan in particular and the local staff have been an exceptional help in preparing this site and finalising the practical arrangements for today. I want to also acknowledge the assistance of the stewards, organised by Cavan County Board, the members of Angarda Síochána, Corry McIntyre of the Town Hall Theatre and his team, and of course Kevin Callery for organising the stage and sound. Tony Finley provided covering for the statue, McMonigal Stone for the base, and Sammy Wilkins was the contractor. All have been hugely helpful. Most especially, I want to acknowledge the skill, the attention to detail, the professionalism, the courtesy and the vision of our sculptor, Seamus Conley. Without having seen the statue, I knew from the reports given by George Cartwright to one of our meetings about his visit to West Clare with members of the O'Reilly family that we were on to a winner with Seamus and his work. George described their emotional reaction to seeing the statue, their happiness with the likeness captured so skillfully by Seamus. That was all that I and the other committee members needed to know. We are deeply grateful to Seamus for what he has done. We believe he can be very proud of this statue, which takes such a prominent place in our county town. I'm also very pleased that a bust of John Joe, created by Seamus as part of this work, has been acquired by Cavan County Council. I want to thank our Chief Executive, Tommy Ryan, Director of Service O'Doyle and Holly Roach, our curator, for making that decision. It will be added to the GAA Gallery in our County Museum in Ballyjimstuff in the near future. As a committee, we were determined that this celebration of John Joe O'Reilly would not be confined, but should be in a prominent and public location, to emphasise that the legacy of John Joe O'Reilly was not only on the playing pitch, but that his legacy is an integral part of the story of our county, that the GAA and the part that it plays in our county and indeed our country is not confined to county stadiums or sporting grounds. This statue is an acknowledgement of an historic legacy, a unique era in our sporting history, of an extraordinary individual whose playing career reached a pinnacle as the captain of the famous mould-breaking Cavan team who won the 1947 All-Ireland in the Polo Grounds in New York, and his career was further recognised by being on the team of the millennium. We believe that this part of our story is worthy of celebration here in the heart of Cavan town. We hope that it will inspire others to see how they might commemorate and celebrate people in their communities. Individuals have made exemplary contributions in all spheres of life, sporting, cultural, educational or political. As a country we're very poor at that, and we need to do more of it. It's great that this is the first such statue in the province of Ulster commemorating a GAA figure. Finally, I want to acknowledge my fellow committee members. Around Christmas 2020, I innocently tweeted that I just finished reading George Cartwright's book. I quickly received a message from Paul Fitzpatrick pointing out that there was no proper acknowledgement of John Joe O'Reilly anywhere in our county. I suggested to him that a group should be formed to promote the idea and assured him, as any public rep might, that I'd do everything I could to help such an initiative. I had no intention of taking a role on a committee, and certainly not being the chairperson. But clearly Paul had a plan. Soon afterwards we had the first of many online meetings. Initially with Paul, Arthur O'Sullivan and Lachlan Egan. We had preliminary discussions with the council about how we could take this matter forward and make quick decisions on a location, a sculpture, and with preliminary consultation agreed the broad plan. Obviously, given that he had only just published an encyclopedic work on the life of John Joe O'Reilly, George Cartwright was an obvious early addition to the committee. He immediately agreed to liaise with the family and did an exceptional job throughout, and we really thank him for that. We were then joined by Mark O'Rourke and Susan Brady, who ably represented the county board, and Jimmy Finlay, who joined and brought a new level of enthusiasm to our efforts. I don't think anyone else on the committee will be offended if I single out Arthur and Lachlan. Arthur liaised throughout with Seamus Conley and did all of the work in bringing together the magnificent souvenir publication for today. He and Lachlan really spearheaded the fundraising with the early online appeals and then followed up with more targeted campaigns for individuals and businesses throughout the county and further afield. Lachlan dealt with virtually all of the finances and much of the practical arrangements for today. Between them, they were the powerhouse that drove this project. They are two people whom anyone would want playing a leading role in an organisation, event or campaign. Jimmy Finlay and his friends in Dublin topped all of that off with an excellent fundraising event in the Healing. Uniquely, today is the first time this committee has been together in one place at the one time. All of our meetings were conducted online. I think that fact, and the fact that so much was taken on during COVID, meant that it was done quickly and businesslike. The tremendous work of this committee meant that I, as chair, had a very easy time, and I sincerely thank them for all of their help, their courtesy, their extraordinary hard work. I hope that all of you enjoyed this afternoon, that you appreciate this wonderful addition to the public art in our county, and particularly here in the heart of Cavan town. I believe we've created a wonderful monument to John Joe O'Reilly, and through him to a whole generation who have inspired so much. And I hope that this is an inspiration to others to emulate his example as a sportsman, as a leader, and as a citizen. Corry.
Well, John Paul, for those lovely words in that speech. I know you mentioned Seamus Conley, who is with us here, who is based in Kilbahal, in Luke Head, which is a bit of crazy out in the Atlantic, yes. There's at least three of them here, obviously. I was told today I played football against Seamus, but he was a wise man. He stayed away from me. He was playing cornerback with the opposition. I was in goal, so I can say Seamus Conley never scored a goal in me, thanks to the gods. But he's the man behind some amazing statues that you know quite well. My great late friend Paddy O'Shea in Bentry, John B. Keane in Listowel, Mick Mackey in Limerick, and from today on, John Joe O'Reilly in Cavan. So you might give a big round of applause to Seamus Conley. Now, it's almost exactly 70 years to the day that John Joe O'Reilly tragically passed away at the age of just 34 years of age. His death, as you can imagine, left a huge void in the lives of so many, but none more so than his family. His late wife, Olive, his sons, Breffney and Brian, and his daughters, Saran and Alva. I would now like to call upon Saran to say a few words. Thank you.